Almost 4,900 people in the building tonight, and for a half a game, they were seeing both teams pitch a shutout, but as soon as the Mavericks got a late goal in the second by Teddy Bluger, the floodgates opened. Mavericks would come back with 3 goals in the third period. And Dan, I feel a lot better about a 4-0 win tonight for MSU after a 5-2 win last night. Another sweep for the Mavericks. They keep pace with everybody else kind of trying to follow them in the WCHA. Still 4 points of Michigan Tech. And we saw a record set tonight. It's been a great night of hockey.
It's a great night of hockey, you know, and it's fun playing in the scoreless games. Those are tight games, and you hope your team comes out on top and the Mavericks get the 1 goal. But you knew that with the pressure that they had been applying, the shots they've been putting on, a goaltender very seldom saves 52 of 53. It usually ends up bouncing out where you end up scoring around 1 goal every 10 shots. Mavericks end up with 4 out of 52 tonight, or out of 53 tonight. So a typical night for the Mavericks in that the goals went in sooner or later. It just took a little while longer to get it started tonight.
There's too much talent for the Mavericks as we get into the highlights. Again, we were scoreless in the first period of play. It was a period that the Mavericks actually had a late major power play opportunity and didn't score in a couple of great looks, but finally Bluger again, about 5 minutes remaining in the second, breaks open with the scoring.
Well, the puck came out to him in front, and he's just too good in front to be able to not put that away. And they get a first chance here where Bryce Gervais with the backhander, and he's just one of the best shots in the country, forehand, backhand, whatever it takes. Then Casey Nelson with a great pass here and a look over in the circle to Zach Palmquist, and he finished it off. That's a power play goal for the Mavericks. Then you'll see Zach stepping here, a great burst of speed, and I don't know, that's a shot. That is a big time shot from a kid who hasn't scored as much as I think the Mavericks thought he would this year, but he's been coming on lately. Mavericks 4-0, 53-12 on shots on goal. Power play 2 for 6. Mavericks take 12 minutes in penalties. The Seawolves 29, and Mavericks dominated in faceoffs tonight, 41-24, where last night that was an even stat time.
Just a much different game statistically than we saw last night. Again, the Mavericks with a 5-2 win last night. But tonight, as the shots on goal last night, 29-20 in favor of the Mavericks, as you mentioned a little while ago, 53-12. The Mavericks in the periods, 20, 16, 17 shots on goal for Alaska Anchorage, 7 in the first period, 3 in the second, 2 in the third. So it was one of those games that Mankato basically had kept them in, but at some point, once again, the Mavericks broke through. There was nothing he could do at that point. And the Mavericks, with, as you mentioned, with Coach Hastings, just offensively, so many weapons on the ice. Gervais got his 20th among the nation's leaders. Palmquist now all of a sudden second with the scoring with the Mavericks for a defenseman Division I era. There's just, even at the blue line, you got Casey Nelson back there with another point tonight. The Mavericks with that scoring distribution, too tough to handle.
Certainly too tough to handle, but if you look at that, they got 5 shots on goal over the last 40 minutes. That's 1 shot every 8 minutes. The Mavericks had almost a shot per minute in the game. That's just a remarkable difference, and just a very solid performance by the Mavericks. And I think Mike Hastings is right. Maybe the first 10 minutes, the Seawolves were at least equal to the Mavericks, or maybe even their get up and go was a little bit stronger. But after that, from that point on, the Mavericks absolutely dominated the final 50 minutes. Certainly the final 40 minutes were all Maverick, even though they didn't score till the 15-minute mark of the second period.
And the Mavericks with that offensive pressure obviously helps out, but also, and we don't give enough credit to the guys on the blue line. We talk a lot about the offense that the Mavericks have, but when you got guys Palmquist, Foguth, Utsi back out there, Stern, you know, Flanagan played well for the weekend. You're only giving up 12 shots, and in front of you, you got the guy who ends up being our player of the game. Only faced the 12 shots, but in doing so, pitches a shutout, and Stefan Williams, our player of the game, the JBL Real Estate Player of the Game, gets his record. This goes all the way back into 1969, so we're talking about guys like Steve Carroll and Ken Ilbert and stuff like that, but Stefan Williams now the all-time career leader in shutouts for MSU with his 8th.
He's averaging a shutout every 9 starts. That's pretty impressive.
So again, Stefan Williams, our JBL Real Estate Group Player of the Game, with the shutout, saving all 12 shots. Contact Shannon Beal at 507-469-9530. And JBL Real Estate Group, they do the little things that make a big difference. And before we close out our broadcast and send this top-ranked team in the country on their way to Alaska next weekend to go to Stefan Williams' hometown in Fairbanks, that'll be an interesting return for him.
Certainly will.
But we'll also take a quick look here at some of the scores from around the country and the WCHA tonight. And we know, again, as we just mentioned, Mavericks with the wins stay on top of that race by 4 points as both Tech and Bowling Green win.
You know, Tech had a very tight weekend with Bemidji State, but they come out on top 2-1. They got a late goal there. Bowling Green comes from behind to beat Fair State 3-2. Superior and Alaska just getting underway. UMD beat Northern Michigan 6-3 tonight. Penn State continues their trek towards the NCAA tournament with a 4-1 win over Wisconsin. Gophers all over Ohio State. Michigan shutting out Michigan State in the first. That's an outdoor game. Quinnipiac beat Colgate tonight 4-2. Miami over Western Michigan. Harvard beat Brown 2-1. UMass Lowell loses to UMass tonight 5-2. And Providence all over Connecticut 10-1 the final score there.
Thank you for reading those, Mr. McCarger, because what it gave me a chance to do was to let you know the dates that we'll be back here in downtown Mankato. I had to get my smartphone out. My kids will be amazed that I even know how to use it that quickly. Mavericks again on the road next weekend against Alaska. They then get the following weekend off. We're back here the 27th and 28th as the Mavericks look to hopefully get control and win their first WCHA championship, regular season championship against Michigan Tech. Mavericks then travel to Bemidji State, and then we'll be back here the weekend of the 13th, 14th, and hopefully not Sunday the 15th, but we know we'll be back here again for the WCHA playoffs. But before we get to that point, Mavericks keeping pace, but it's going to be a long road trip. It's going to be a tough one, and the Mavericks will be tested up in Fairbanks.
The two top teams in the conference are both going to be in Alaska next weekend. They'll be here in 3 weeks, and we'll find out who's the best in the conference. The McNaughton Cup will almost certainly be here for that weekend of hockey, and it hopefully will be decided on Saturday night with the Mavericks getting the cup on the ice.
Mavericks, again, doing everything they can to stay on pace here, and they persevere tonight, getting through a scoreless first half of the game, but in the end, it's the Mavericks, a 4-0 shutout win over Alaska Anchorage tonight as we close out our broadcast. We thank Dan McCarger, myself, Don Westfall, and the students from Bethany College who brought you the broadcast with, again, our final score one more time, Minnesota State 4, Alaska Anchorage 0. We will see you February 27th, Michigan Tech in the building, downtown Mankato via the site. We hope you join us.